In the annals of maritime history, few names inspire as much fear and awe as Captain Jameson Kadava. Born in the early 18th century, Captain Kadava was a formidable pirate whose legend has transcended time, shrouded in mystery and dark lore. As the great-great-great-grandfather of the infamous Dr. Mortis Kadava, his legacy is one of treachery, supernatural intrigue, and relentless pursuit of the arcane. So let's sit back and enjoy one of Captain Kadava's haunted stories.
A dense fog rolls in over a pitch-black ocean, the air thick with the smell of salt and decay. The eerie silhouette of an ancient pirate ship emerges from the mist, its tattered sails flapping like ghostly shrouds in the cold, dead air. The ship's once grand wooden figurehead, a mermaid with hollow eyes, now sports a gruesome visage, its face twisted in eternal agony. The approach. The moon hangs high in the sky, casting a ghostly light over the churning waves. 4 rugged fishermen, hardened by years at sea, guide their small fishing boat through the dense fog that clings to the water like a shroud. The air is thick with a chill that bites through their clothes, causing them to shiver despite their sturdy frames. Lars, the burliest of the crew, stands at the bow, peering through the mist. His weathered face is etched with concern. "Do you see that?" he mutters, pointing ahead. The others strain their eyes, and slowly the outline of an enormous ship materializes from the gloom. "Looks abandoned," says Tom, the youngest, his voice wavering. "But why is it just drifting here?" "Doesn't matter," grunts Sven, a grizzled veteran of the seas. "Let's take a look. Might be something worth salvaging." As they draw nearer, the sheer size of the ship becomes apparent. It's an ancient pirate vessel, its hull encrusted with barnacles and seaweed. The ship looms over them, an imposing silhouette against the night sky. Lars, with a practiced motion, tosses a grappling hook over the ship's side. The hook catches with a metallic clang, and he tests the line, ensuring it's secure. "Let's go," he says, and one by one they climb the rope, their hands and feet finding purchase on the damp wood. The moment they step onto the deck, an uneasy feeling washes over them. The wood beneath their boots creaks and groans, the sound reminiscent of mournful wails. It's as if the ship itself is alive, protesting their presence. Lanterns aloft, they move cautiously across the deck. The light from the lanterns casts long, flickering shadows that dance eerily along the ship's timbers. The deck is slick with a dark, viscous substance that glistens in the dim glow. Lars, curiosity piqued and concern mounting, kneels to inspect the substance. He dips his fingers into the liquid, feeling its warmth. He lifts his hand to the light and his eyes widen in horror. "It's blood," he whispers, his voice trembling. The revelation sends a wave of panic through the group. Tom stumbles backward, his lantern nearly slipping from his grasp. "Fresh blood," Lars continues, his voice barely above a whisper. "Something terrible happened here, and not long ago." They exchange uneasy glances, their breath visible in the cold air. The silence around them is oppressive, broken only by the distant lapping of waves against the hull and the soft creak of the ship's timbers. Every sound seems amplified, each step a thunderous echo in the eerie stillness. "What now?" asks Eric, the 4th member of the crew, his voice a strained whisper. He grips his lantern tightly, eyes darting around as if expecting something to leap from the shadows. "We need to find out what happened here," Lars says, trying to maintain his composure. "But stay close. This place, it feels wrong." As they gather their resolve and prepare to explore further, a cold wind sweeps across the deck, carrying with it the faintest whispers of ghostly voices. The fishermen shiver, not just from the cold, but from the palpable sense of dread that grips them. They press on, lanterns held high, hearts pounding in their chests, unaware of the horrors that await them in the darkness below. The fishermen move towards the stairs leading down into the bowels of the ship, their footsteps echoing in the silence. The oppressive atmosphere thickens with each step, the darkness seeming to close in around them. The faint smell of rot and decay grows stronger, mingling with the scent of blood. They steel themselves for whatever horrors lie ahead, their lanterns the only source of light in the encroaching gloom. The fishermen's lanterns flicker as they make their way down the narrow, creaking staircase into the bowels of the ship. Each step echoes ominously, reverberating through the oppressive darkness that surrounds them. The air grows noticeably colder with each step they take, a chill that seeps into their bones and causes their breath to mist in the eerie chill. "Stick together," Lars warns, his voice barely more than a whisper. The others nod, their faces taut with fear. The lanterns cast long, wavering shadows that seem to dance and writhe along the walls, giving the illusion of movement where there should be none. Every creak and groan of the ship seems amplified, each sound a sinister reminder of their isolation and the malevolence lurking within the vessel's timbers. As they reach the bottom of the stairs, the stench of rot and death becomes overpowering. The fishermen gag, covering their noses and mouths with their sleeves, but the foul odor persists, clinging to their senses like a malevolent force. They step into the hold, and the sight that greets them is one of unspeakable horror. Suspended from the ceiling are the bodies of long-dead pirates, their skeletal remains swaying gently as if moved by an unseen force. The pirates' eyeless sockets seem to follow the fishermen, and their bony fingers dangle like grotesque marionettes. The walls are lined with rotting wooden crates, their contents spilling out in a macabre display of decayed riches. Gold coins coated in a thick layer of grime, rusted cutlasses, and tattered flags that once bore proud emblems now faded and stained with time. A low, almost imperceptible whisper begins to fill the air, growing louder and more distinct with each passing moment. It's a chorus of mournful wails, angry shouts, and desperate pleas, a cacophony of tormented souls trapped in eternal agony. Pete, the wiry fisherman, feels a sudden, icy grip around his ankle. He looks down in terror as invisible hands yank him upwards, lifting him off his feet. His lantern crashes to the floor, shattering and plunging the hold into near-total darkness. "Help me!" Pete screams, his voice a high-pitched wail of terror. The other fishermen turn just in time to see him being hoisted toward the ceiling, his limbs flailing wildly. His screams are abruptly cut short as he is impaled on a rusted hook, his body jerking violently as blood pours from his wounds. The sickening sound of tearing flesh and splattering blood fills the hold, echoing in the confined space. The fishermen below are splattered with the warm, sticky fluid, their horrified faces illuminated by the flickering light of their remaining lanterns. Lars, Sven, and Tom stare in stunned silence, their minds struggling to process the gruesome scene unfolding before them. Pete's body hangs limply from the hook, his eyes wide open in a lifeless stare. The whispering voices grow louder, more insistent, as if feeding on the fisherman's fear. "We need to get out of here," Sven says, his voice shaking. He starts to back away, but Lars grabs his arm, holding him in place. "No," Lars says, his voice firm despite the terror in his eyes. "We need to find out what cursed this ship. We need to end it, or we'll end up like Pete." Reluctantly, Sven and Tom nod, their resolve hardening. They tighten their grips on their lanterns and move deeper into the hold, stepping over broken crates and scattered bones, their senses on high alert. The air grows colder still, and the darkness seems to close in around them, the oppressive atmosphere thickening with each step. The whispers continue to swirl around them, a malevolent presence that seeps into their minds, filling them with dread. The fishermen press on, determined to uncover the truth behind the ship's curse, unaware of the horrors that await them in the captain's quarters above. The fishermen, now reduced to 3, their hearts pounding in their chests, stumble and scramble through the bowels of the ship. Desperation drives them forward, their lanterns casting frantic, flickering light on the damp wooden walls. Their minds race, filled with the images of Pete's gruesome death and the relentless whispers that pursue them. Lars, taking the lead, motions towards a grand set of doors at the end of a narrow corridor. "The captain's quarters," he breathes, hoping that sanctuary, or at least answers, lie beyond. With a final burst of adrenaline, they crash through the heavy, ornate doors and into the captain's quarters. The room is a stark contrast to the decaying ship around it. Though covered in dust and cobwebs, the lavish furnishings and intricate carvings speak of a time when this vessel sailed proudly under Captain Blackheart's command. The centerpiece of the room, however, is the skeletal remains of the captain himself, seated at a grand wooden desk. His bony fingers clutch a quill poised over an open logbook, as if frozen in the act of recording his last doomed voyage. The eye sockets of the skull burn with a malevolent red light, casting an eerie glow that dances across the room. As the men catch their breath, the door behind them slams shut with a deafening bang, sealing them inside. The temperature plummets further, their breath now visible in the frigid air. The lanterns flicker and almost extinguish, casting long, wavering shadows across the walls. The captain's skull slowly turns to face them, the bones creaking with an unnatural life. The quill drops from his grasp, clattering onto the desk. A ghastly, disembodied voice fills the room, reverberating off the walls and echoing in their minds. "Ye have trespassed on the cursed vessel of Captain Blackheart," the voice intones, dripping with malice. "Now, your souls are mine." As the voice speaks, the room comes alive with supernatural activity. The shadows on the walls writhe and twist, forming grotesque shapes that seem to reach out towards the fishermen. The temperature continues to drop, a bone-chilling cold that saps their strength and numbs their senses. Sven, overcome with terror, backs away from the desk, only to find himself entangled in a thick web of spectral chains that materialize from the darkness. They wrap around his limbs, pulling him towards the floor with a force that leaves him gasping for breath. Lars and Tom watch in horror as Sven's struggles grow weaker, his skin turning pale and his eyes glazing over. "No!" Lars shouts, lunging forward to help his friend, but an invisible barrier stops him, throwing him back against the wall. The captain's voice grows louder, more commanding. "You cannot escape your fate. This ship is a tomb, and you are its latest occupants." Tom, driven by a mix of fear and defiance, grabs a rusted cutlass from the wall and charges at the skeletal figure. As he swings the blade, it passes through the captain's bones as if they were made of smoke, and Tom stumbles forward, his momentum carrying him into the desk. The logbook bursts into flames, and the spectral form of Captain Blackheart rises from the skeletal remains. He towers over the men, a terrifying apparition clad in tattered pirate garb, his eyes burning like coals from the depths of hell. "You dare to challenge me?" the captain roars, his voice a cacophony of rage and torment. "Your souls will fuel my eternal quest for vengeance." Lars, with a surge of desperate strength, manages to push past the invisible barrier and reaches Sven, who lies motionless on the floor. He shakes him, trying to revive him, but it's too late. Sven's body is cold and lifeless, his soul claimed by the cursed ship. Tom, seeing his comrade's fate, realizes the futility of their struggle. He drops the cutlass, his shoulders sagging in defeat. "What do you want from us?" he pleads, his voice barely a whisper. The captain's spectral form looms closer, his burning eyes fixed on Tom. "To join my crew in death," he hisses, "and to sail the seas for eternity, seeking vengeance on all who wronged us." As the realization of their doom settles in, the walls of the captain's quarters seem to close in, the shadows growing thicker and more oppressive. The voices of the damned rise to a crescendo, a symphony of agony that drowns out all thought. The captain's form dissolves into the darkness, his presence lingering as an ever-present threat. The fishermen, their spirits broken, are left to face their inevitable end. The ship, now fully awakened by the fresh souls, sails on through the endless fog, a ghostly vessel forever cursed to seek out new victims. The final screams of Lars and Tom echo through the night, swallowed by the haunted silence of the ocean. The oppressive darkness of the captain's quarters closes in around the remaining fishermen. The air is thick with the smell of decay and blood, the whispering voices of the damned growing louder, more insistent. Lars, Sven and Tom huddle together, their lanterns casting weak, flickering light that barely pierces the shadows. The room seems to pulse with a malevolent energy, the walls almost alive with the torment of countless souls. Suddenly, the spectral form of Captain Blackheart materializes once more, his eyes burning with an unholy fire. "You cannot escape your fate," he intones, his voice a chilling echo that reverberates through the chamber. Sven, filled with a mix of terror and rage, charges at the apparition with a makeshift weapon, a broken chair leg he had grabbed in desperation. But as he swings, phantom hands reach out from the shadows, grabbing him and lifting him off his feet. Sven's eyes widen in horror as he is dragged towards the ceiling, his screams piercing the darkness. The spectral hands tighten around Sven, and with a sickening crack they begin to pull. His body contorts grotesquely, bones snapping and muscles tearing. Blood pours from his wounds, cascading down like a crimson waterfall. The hands continue their relentless assault until Sven is torn apart, his remains scattering across the cabin in a gruesome display. Lars, witnessing Sven's horrific demise, feels a surge of adrenaline. He grabs a rusted cutlass from the wall and swings wildly at the ghostly figures emerging from the shadows. His strikes find no purchase, passing through the phantoms as if they were made of smoke. Invisible hands grasp Lars's arms and legs, pulling him in different directions. He fights with all his strength, muscles straining and veins bulging, but the supernatural force is too strong. With a final desperate scream, Lars is lifted off the ground, his body suspended in midair. The hands begin to pull, and Lars's body is torn apart, limb by limb. Blood and entrails spray across the cabin, painting the walls in a grotesque tableau of crimson and gore. His screams echo and then fade, leaving only the sound of dripping blood and the malevolent whispers. Tom, the youngest and now the last man standing, stumbles backward, his eyes wide with terror. He trips over a fallen piece of furniture and falls to the floor, his lantern clattering beside him. The flickering light casts eerie shadows on his face, highlighting his fear. The spectral captain rises from his chair, floating towards Tom with an otherworldly grace. His eyes, burning with a demonic red light, lock onto Tom, who scrambles backward, desperately trying to escape. "Please," Tom begs, his voice trembling. "Please, don't." But his pleas fall on deaf ears. The captain's ghostly hands reach out and Tom feels a cold, penetrating chill as they grasp his chest. The hands sink into his flesh, phasing through skin and bone. Tom screams, a high-pitched primal sound of pure terror. The captain's hands close around Tom's heart. With a brutal supernatural strength, he rips it free from Tom's chest in a spray of blood. Tom's scream is abruptly cut off, his body convulsing as he collapses to the floor. Blood pools around him, his lifeless eyes staring into the void. As the last of the fishermen falls, the captain's form dissolves back into the shadows. The whispers of the damned rise to a fever pitch, celebrating the capture of new souls. The ship, now fully awakened by the fresh blood, lurches forward through the endless fog, driven by the insatiable hunger of its cursed crew. The ghostly pirates, their skeletal forms animated by dark magic, take their places on the deck, guiding the ship towards its next victims. The bodies of Lars, Sven and Tom join the other unfortunate souls in the hold, their faces frozen in eternal horror. The cursed vessel sails on, forever seeking new souls to claim, its legend growing with each passing year. The ghostly wails of the damned echo across the waves, a chilling reminder of the ship's eternal quest for vengeance. The ship sails on through the endless fog, its ghostly crew once again at the helm. The fresh souls of the fishermen now hang among the other victims in the hold, their faces frozen in eternal horror. The ship continues its hunt, forever cursed, forever seeking new souls to claim.
If you enjoyed our extended audio storytelling, please give us a like and share. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel to get more of Dr. Mortis Kadava's collections. Your support helps us continue to bring you the most chilling and thrilling tales from the depths of Dr. Mortis Kadava's vault. Thank you for listening, and remember, the darkness is always waiting, just around the corner.